The South African Council of Churches and other civil society organizations are calling on all South Africans to act against corruption. The organization is mobilizing other sectors to come up with a comprehensive societal response to graft. This includes reopening of the unburdening panel for whistleblowers and public servants to report corruption. South African Council of Churches General Secretary Bishop Malusi Mpumlwana joining us now to talk to us a little bit further. Bishop, good evening and thank you so much for your time tonight. By the sound of the many messages we are getting tonight, if that was a barometer to test the level of confidence that South Africans have in this government to deal with corruption, it will tell you that the level is very low. Add your voice as the South African Council of Churches to this discourse. What is your feeling?
It is that really and truly, the state belongs to the people. Government is an employed manager. And if you employ somebody, a plumber or somebody to fix something for you, and you are not taking responsibility for what they are going to do there, you just let them do, then of course, you may well not be able to get proper accountability. So all we're saying is that let's put right the relationship between citizens and government, that the state belongs to all the people and that the government governs at the pleasure of society. And therefore, there has to be a way in which we take responsibility when things go wrong. And that's why we are saying, if there is corruption, somebody knows it is happening. Somebody in an office, whether it's a business organization that is putting up prices or it is invoicing for what they know has not been purchased, somebody knows that. And we want to create, therefore, a system where every such person can actually, with a protected and secure way of reporting, be able to bring those facts to light. And you know what? We will follow it through all the way to prosecution.
Now, South African Council of Churches, what do you make of the fact that the latest COVID-19 scandal involves PPEs at a time of a crisis? What do you say to that?
I don't even want to think about that. It's somebody stealing oxygen from somebody gasping for breath in an ICU. That's what this is. When you hear that a nurse, a doctor, a clerk at a hospital has died, you know that it may well have been that had that not been stolen, that person may have survived. It is stealing. It's unthinkable what they are doing. It's just unthinkable. It is a crime beyond measure.
Now, you want senior politicians, private companies, but as well as their families as well to be held accountable for this graft. But politicians are saying their families should not be barred just because they are politicians. What's your view?
I hear that. I hear that they all have their constitutional rights to do business anywhere they like. And I'm saying that I can only use an analogy that comes from my part of life. If I were a pastor who is leading a church, I say, and my wife has got a tender for all the music equipment, my daughter has a tender for all the Bibles, my son has a tender for all the uniforms, really? What would that look like? They've got the constitutional right to do it. But you know what? I've got to be above that because it's a service. And so I will not take away their constitutional rights, but I believe in what St. Paul says, all things are lawful, but not all things are helpful. There is a bar above which one should be able to go in leadership. That as a leader, there are certain things we just don't do, even if you've got the right to do them.
The latest move by President Cyril Ramaphosa, now as president of the ANC, writing a 7-page letter to members of the ANC to say we need to deal with corruption. Do you look at that as political expediency appeasement, or maybe just trying to restore some kind of reputation in the eyes of the public?
Well, having made the call together with other organizations, the Katrada Foundation, the Nelson Mandela Foundation, the Tutu Foundation, Foundation for Human Rights, CASAC, together we've made what we call a moral call. We do expect a response, and we are quite happy that that response comes. The president does what he does in his organization, but that does not stop us from pushing ahead, because we're now quite satisfied that it is the responsibility of every South African to stand up and do something in their area where they've got influence. And I think we should do that. If we do so, we will be helping those who really want to change things to do so. We need everybody to be involved, even if, and this is not to say if there's an us and them in any way. There is all of us South Africans. Let's all together do something about, that person who's stealing. Who should not be getting what they're getting. Somebody out there knows. Please come forward. Let us know and let this be taken up. If there's somebody who needs to identity, I know we've dealt with this kind of thing before when we had the first unburdening panel. We had a lot of people that were unwilling to actually be known to be telling us anything. That's fine. As long as we're able to get the information, we'll see how best to use it. We'll work with lawyers to depose it appropriately.
One would say you were very clear and unequivocal about putting the previous president, President Jacob Zuma, on the firing line when there were reports of corruption in government. Why are you not as willing to do the same with this president?
What most people do not know, and that's because we never made it known, is that on the matter of the Nganda, just that alone, the first call on this matter with the governing party was in April 2014. It took 2 years of engagement before anybody knew we were talking about it in public. We are not rushing anybody. We tell people what we think and expect them to act on those, and we keep following up. And when the time comes, we come to the conclusion that nothing happens, then of course we'll go public. But right now, we're saying, let's gather the information. So SACC operates, I'm talking about SACC alone now, operates on the process that we call C, Judge, Act. C is gathering all the information you can gather as much as you can, and that's why we're saying come forward with the information. So that once we have gathered the information, we use our gospel values to judge, then we act. In the case of the previous administration, I promise you we tried to persuade every which way. Surely you can change this. Surely this can be done differently. Surely you can own up to this and this. But it just didn't work. And so in the end, we then had to say, look, it's clear to us, and that's what the churches said, that this administration has lost moral legitimacy. And so, by the way, that was our conference that made that decision. It has not yet come back to say it has changed that. But I'm not there now. What I'm saying is that we always take our time. In each case, we're not a pressure group. We are churches. And as churches, we want to be sure. Remember that churches carry everybody. Yeah. Some of them are with this political party and the other political party. But all of us want to be sure that when we take an action, nobody doubts that everything had been done before you get that action.
Bishop,